Hey everybody, hi, welcome to Old Style Classics Baseball Cards. And how you doing? Today is Wednesday, May 29th, 2024, and it's 9:50 p.m. California time. And I've been racking my brain on what to do after doing those Cracker Jack cards, and I believe I decided to do another special episode inspired. As you can see, something peeking out here. Before we get to that, though, when I went to the gas station this morning to get a soda before work, I came across the Cracker Jack, and it said, so I had a different thing in here. Win a trip to the Hall of Fame. See the back details. And it's crack open the Hall of Fame. You can win a Grand Slam, prizes, experience, etc. And there's the fine print if you like to read that. So that got me thinking, well, maybe Cracker Jack is doing another baseball set or something. So I bought a couple bags, and I opened this up earlier at work, and no baseball cards, but it is a cool little Hall of Fame, National Baseball Hall of Fame sticker there, where you can see if that wins the prize, I guess. So that's baseball related at least, so that's something. So that's pretty cool. Alright folks, so on Old Style Classics today, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, leave me a message. Quick shout out to Orlando, who thanked me for liking his video. But today what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the very beginning. Now, I don't know for a fact that this was my very first baseball card, but it's the first one that I remember having and still owning. So, and we're going to probably find out why I have a love for oddball cards, and especially MSA. So if you're all ready, I got this top loader out. It's just been sitting in this bag with these cards that I'll get to someday. And but now it's time to top load this. So I got that. I should have found that other card. That's okay. So today I'm going to show you the very first baseball card that I believe I got and kept. I may have had cards before, I don't know, when I was younger. This is probably around the time we were picking up Star Wars cards and stuff like that more than anything. But there's a story behind this, and that, my friends, is because it would have been a Cub, and that's why I saved it, I'm sure. And I had been to games back in Chicago before we moved to Albuquerque. We moved in 1978, and my parents owned Tastee-Freez, and some of these cards were leftovers from that store that were still on the shelves, along with some Coke posters, Stan Musial and Willie Mays, which I'll show someday. But I've been to Wrigley Field, and I've probably seen him in person, because I remember we had one of those little baseballs that was a team signed ball by all the players, and of course it was all cheap ball, and it was bled. So I don't know whatever happened to that ball, but he was on that ball, so I was probably at one of the games he played in. And that, my friends, is the first baseball card that I've owned and kept my whole life. So I've had this since 1978 at least, when we moved to Albuquerque, and it looks like that is a 1978. So I don't know if I don't know the exact dates. I think we moved in August, so it was like right before school, maybe July, August. I'm fairly sure it was 78. So they might have already had these at the Tastee-Freez by then. Cousins owned a different Tastee-Freez, and I remember my cousin having a complete set still in the cellophane. But what you would do, I think they were meant maybe to be like a coaster or something, but when you bought something, you'd get one of these cards, or maybe a pack. I don't remember, of course, I was very young. But there we go, people. That is the MSA Disc Dave Kingman for the Chicago Cubs, 1978. Borderline Hall of Famer. Big home run hitter, but big strikeout guy. Look at that, 6'6", 210. Born December 21st, 1948. Always had this card, and I've kept it as probably as good as it was at the time that I got it. So I was already good at keeping the cards as best I could, even then, you know, like first grader. And that's why I would have kept it, because of the Cubs. And I've grown to love oddball cards probably since the day that I got this card. It's got some scratches and stuff on there, and that's okay. This is more a trip down memory lane for me. Rest in peace to my mom, and both my mom and my dad, who took the risk of going out there and opening up a store. That didn't quite work out, but had a pretty good life otherwise. And that's where I met my wife in the first grade. So she's the first girl I ever liked. So never would have met her had we not moved there and did all this. But I loved baseball even then, as a wee whippersnapper, knee high to a grasshopper. And that, my friends, is the Big T and Tastee-Freez. Number 19, Dave Kingman. You can see it's got some issues there. Might have got wet at some point, but I think that card's always been like that. So Tastee-Freez International, 1978. All rights reserved. Printed in the USA. Collect a set of 26 baseball stars at participating Big T family restaurant and Tastee-Freez. So you can still find Tastee-Freez in some small towns, I think, and attached to like Wiener Schnitzel. Alright, and as you can see, that is an MSA disc. So there you go, people. That's where all this started, old style classics baseball cards. And I think this fascination with product issue, like this or Burger King or whatever kind of cards, started here. And that was a very young age for me, because by 1981, when we still had the Tastee-Freez, we sold Dunross the first year, and that might have been the last year or two that we owned the Tastee-Freez. And so those were probably my early exposure to regular cards. So for me, getting stuff out of cereal boxes and all that kind of stuff, or places like this, was where my love of cards came from. And I made the connection between this and like the old tobacco cards and caramel cards, the kind of stuff. That's how you got baseball cards. And so that's where this comes from. So I'm going to digress a moment, because I have some other cards to show you that I picked up recently, in the last year at least. But before I get to that, so that's the classic, that's the later design for MSA. It might be specific for Tastee-Freez, I'm not 100% sure, because most of the cards that came out, which I believe they started doing these in like 76, in that ballpark. But I would call these ones here some advertisements, not for any particular restaurant or any something like that, but these are more salesman samples. So these were the salesman sample. Now, as you can see, it's a different design. It's a year earlier, and that's the one with the baseball. It looks more like a baseball, and this one's a diamond. This is the classic design most people would know for these MSA discs. And so it's just the Players Association there. And Reggie Jackson there as a New York Yankee. And then we got the Lou Brock, St. Louis Cardinal. And why I'm going to show you these first is, well, let's do Lou Brock. I think this one looks a little better, the green. And this is like a salesman sample from MSA to companies like Tastee-Freez or Isley's or whoever else, Holiday Inn or whoever, that hey, we can print you up cards like this and put your logo on the back. And that's, I believe, how this was done. And this is I'm going to call a salesman sample for MSA. It just says MS there, so that was like an early design. But MSA, all those cards that you see, like those Craft Home Plate Heroes cards right there, it says MSA right down there, or even these M&M's cards are also MSA, and Cracker Jack, all that other stuff, Jiffy Pop, all start in the 70s, where it's customized sports discs available with Major League Baseball players, NBA, NFL, professional men and women's tennis, and other people and places. I'm not familiar with anything outside of the football. I've seen a few, but never seen any of these. But available through MS Michael Schechter Associates Inc. and 925 Westchester Avenue, White Plains, New York, with the phone number. And it was manufactured by Googler Lithograph Company in Milwaukee. Also available in a variety of papers, plastic, and glass products. So they could also do like your Star Wars cups and stuff, or glasses. So anyways, that was MSA's way of trying to advertise and get companies to buy their sports discs. Now, I'm fascinated with MSA products, so that's what the MSA stands for on your Oddball cards when you get an MSA product. Sometimes they'll have logos, but very seldom. They're usually the cheaper of the companies to get to do cards with, as opposed to Tops, and then later Flair or Dunross or Upper Deck or any of them guys. But I'm just fascinated with Michael Schechter and Associates, and there's very little information online. Now there's a few articles that talk about how this guy started up. I think he might have been a lawyer or maybe a marketing firm, but very little information about the person himself. But there is one article, if you look on Google and you search a little bit, where you can find out. It tells a little bit of the story of what they did, but I never knew what ended up happening with them. If they were bought out, they kind of seemed to be doing like the King Bee discs near the end, and then Pacific took over, and then like Pacific or Dunross or one of those took over, and I don't know if they had bought up these guys or if he just stopped doing it, like, all right, I had enough. He, retired or something like that. They just went away, and I believe, I wish I could write, like if I had good grammar and stuff like that, this would be a fascinating story to tell, to have like a biography kind of book talking about MSA Discs and the company and the deals they made. I wonder if he's still alive. But like I said, when you pull stuff up, you come up with lawyers like in Florida, and then it's usually they just want to show you cards for sale and stuff like that. So there's 1977s. So those are my salesman samples. I'm just going to call them that. And then some of the ones that I've had more recently, but in the last few years. I bought this one maybe 5 or 6 years ago from Stevens Creek Sports Cards. He didn't want to sell them to me because he had another guy that wanted them, and he wanted to ship them off to get graded. I'd rather have these not graded because I'm not a grading person myself, because you saw the Catfish Hunter one that I have that's kind of, it moves around like this one has kind of turned in the PSA slab, but nevertheless, he had a few loose. He thought maybe this wouldn't get a 10, I think. So I bought the Hank Aaron because that's a Playing Days Hank Aaron card. That's the last of them. And the difference between that one and say this, obviously other than the image, this one has the MSA on the front and this one has it on the back right here. So that's the same thing. Michael Schechter Associates, MSA. And there's one of the more popular ones that you can find, the Isley's Family Restaurant, Sweet William. So similar to some places it was called Big T Family Restaurant, and other places it was called Tastee-Freez. Think of it like America's Tires and Discount Tires, the same company. Like in California it's called America's Tires, but in the rest of the country it's like Discount Tire Company. So I definitely wanted to pick this one up because I love MSA, I love discs, and of course getting a Hank Aaron Playing Days card. Take a drink of water there. I believe that's his last year playing, so that's pretty cool. And then of course when I saw this one I had to pick that up. Of course I'm going to get me a Nolan Ryan because he's one of the more popular ones in all the discs. And as you can see, these are 1976s. So, you know, they had obviously different designs that the people could choose from when they did order one of these cards sets from MSA. Well, didn't even get that one in the top loader. I actually had two top loaders. I slipped it between the two. So hold on a second, people. Protect my very first card. And that'll always be a keepsake, nostalgic treasure for me. But you know, they had a lot of Hall of Famers. But they were not huge sets, but they weren't small sets either. Later on, they came down to like 24, 34, 36 kind of card sets. But I think some of these sets could go up to into like 60 or 70 cards. But it doesn't say on here, you know, this one, yeah, I believe it's like 26 card set. Yeah, collect a set of 26. And this one here doesn't say anything, so you'll even get some blank back ones like this that are just like rubber stamped by like Carvel, or some of those Farrell's restaurant, you know, like place you would go for your birthday. So they could come as just blank backs, and then you'll find some stamped, and they're meant to be stamped. The company did the stamping themselves, I think, and you can find those graded as well. So it's a fascinating run of cards that they did. And then these obviously ran into them starting to do regular cards, like for cereal companies and haircut places and Jimmy Dean and dog food and whatever, you know. So those are two bigger ones that I got, some big names. And so me being fascinated with this and keeping that for so long, and remembering my cousin had a complete set still in the wrapper, I wanted to pick up this set, so I ordered it on eBay. I don't know how many months ago, it's less than a year ago. So I got the complete set, and they're multicolored, so let's go through this, okay? So this is cool for me because we actually owned a Tastee-Freez, like Jack and Diane sucking on a chili dog outside the Tastee-Freez from John Cougar. Alright, so we're going to start at number 1. I'll show you the back of this one first. So number 1, Buddy Bell. These are in a little bit nicer condition than mine, obviously. Mine's got some discoloration and maybe paper loss, but I love that card. Alright, so here we go, folks. Let's show it. Buddy Bell for Cleveland Indians. Once again, these cards are for 1978. That's a pretty card. That blue works pretty well. They're all black and whites. I don't think I've ever seen a disc of theirs that was color. So Tastee-Freez International, all rights reserved, all that. So I wonder if they were all printed in Milwaukee or Wisconsin, whatever it said, because they did these discs a number of years. I mean into the 80s, which I'll show you an example. They did these into the early 80s, but they did change the size because these cards are pretty big. If you've never seen it compared to a regular size card. Alright, so we'll pull one of these out, and so that's your standard card size there, and there's your disc, and then I'll show you the back of this one. This is more of a disc that they did more in the 80s, and these are kind of the equivalent of like King B, maybe a little bigger even. You know, Jiffy Pop, those kind of things. But yeah, then they also did some of the stuff that like Burger Chef. It was part of like their Happy Meal box. Maybe on soda pop bottles, stuff like that. Different products like the Wiffle Ball box. Alright, here's another good one. Hall of Famer Jim Palmer. So if you guys want to pause at any point in time, take a look at that. Steve Garvey, superstar. Tampa there. Like I said, if you watched my old videos and the old, you know, I talk about how my middle school coach said that he was cousins with Steve Garvey. Middle school coach was John Wood, so I wonder if that was true. Alright, Jeff Burrows for Atlanta Braves. So please leave comments and likes and tell me what you think or what you know about any of these Hall of Famers or any of these guys big fan of or anything like that. So number 4, Jeff Burrows. So like I said, it's not always just like Hank Aaron and Nolan Ryan kind of guys. It could be just some guy to represent the team. Maybe he had a good year or something that year, or they had nobody else to put on. There's one, Greg Luzinski. We've all heard that name before. And born in Chicago. MSA. Number 5. Here's the great. Another Lou Brock. So, same image. Different looking card. You know. Oh, and this design is the one that the Flair did, the hardball, the round hardball one that I showed you about a month ago. So these same standard image, but the great Lou Brock. There you go, that's a great one. Look at that green on that Thurman Munson, New York Yankee. I don't know when he died, but it couldn't have been too long after this. So Mr. Thurman Munson for Yankees fans. Number 7. Another great, another Hall of Famer. Rod Carew. That's nice looking orange, that's cool. They're not as elaborate as the one with the stitching on it, but these are kind of cool. They're kind of like I was talking about the Cracker Jack. It's just simple. There's something to be said about a simple card that the card speaks for itself. and the player without all the distraction or the shine and all that. So look at his average, 388 in 1977. Boy, my Cubs lost to Milwaukee again today. But they won yesterday, and I didn't even know it. But man, boy, I don't know what's going on with the Cubbies. They sure need to get a trade, get some offense going. Pick up Pete Alonso, Bregman, and Yordan Alvarez would be a completely different team. George Brett there, another Hall of Famer, people. On the yellow. So it's a rainbow of colors. So I imagine that Tastee-Freez Corp, you know, it's a franchise. So like my parents bought one store as a franchise, but they still had to go by like Tastee-Freez, you know, advertising, you know, like pitching in and, you know, the menu and stuff like that. So I'm sure the head honchos at Big T Tastee-Freez, probably the ones that approve these promos. There we go, another great one. Look at how bright that Tom Seaver is. That just pops. Hall of Famer Tom Seaver, 21-6 and 77. That's pretty darn good. Here we go, another one. Willie Stargell. There you go, Mangini. And all you Pirates fans out there, a lot of card collectors in Pennsylvania, it seems like to me. So Willie Stargell. Number 11. Jerry Koosman for the Mets. There you go. So I think every team's represented. In this one, they only had 26 teams. So before 30. So there should be one player for each team. Bill North for the Oakland Athletics over here. So any of you Oakland people around here know who he was. It's Mr. Bill North. And it's cool to look up some of these guys and learn some of their story and what became of them. And they were the representative of their team. Richie Zisk for the Texas Rangers. Brooklyn boy there. Wonder if he stuck out like a sore thumb in Texas. 290 batting average, pretty solid. Alright, here's a name we all should know, Bill Madlock. Yeah, another one from a Bay Area brothers, like Rick Vintage Oddball cards. Rick, do you got the Bill Madlock San Francisco Giant card? From the Big T Tastee-Freez set. And I do have some Oddball Bay Area, especially Giant stuff that I want to do an episode specifically for Rick. There we go, the great Carl Yastrzemski, Hall of Famer, 296 batting average. Alright, Dave Cash. Check out Cash cashing in with his Giant hat. His hat's so big that the little vent is on the side. Cover his afro. Alright, pretty nice. For Montreal, too bad that wasn't Andre Dawson, but that was his first year, was in 77. First full year. Of course, he won the Rookie of the Year in 77. So I guess he played with Dave Cash, unless he wasn't on the team. But there you go. Expos, Washington National people. Alright, Bob Watson for the Houston Astros. When Houston over there used to be in the National League. And kind of a color match. Orange for the Astros. That worked out. Coincidentally, probably. 289 batting average. Alright, then here's one for my Cubbies, Dave Kingman. This 222 batting average. Oh boy. Alright, been mine, so I guess I'll never mix these two up because of the patina on mine. So there we go, Dave Kingman. So now I have a backup. Alright, Dave and his strikeout friendliness. Pitcher friendly strikeout batter. Either going to clobber it, kind of Schwarber-esque. Gene Tennis for the San Diego Padres. A little baseball down there, and the position right here for catcher. Heard the name, not too familiar with him. Alright, Ralph Garr for the White Sox. Outfielder. .300 batting average, pretty good. Alright, Mark Furtick for Detroit, pitcher from Worcester, Massachusetts. With a 6-4 record. Frank Tanana. Not the best image, a little unibrow going on there. For the California Angels, of course. Number 23. Alright, getting down to the last few. Larry Hissel, Milwaukee Brewers. Alright, 302, not bad. Here we go, another Bay Area legend, Bruce Bochy right there. So, big, lot of fans of him in San Francisco and Texas right now, I bet. Batted .300 back then when he was still a pup. And to wrap it up, a really bright pop, Bob Baylor, shortstop outfielder for Toronto Blue Jays. Alright, got a big old chaw on his cheek. Alright, batted .310, so that's pretty good. So there it is, people. So that stack is the Tastee-Freez MSA discs. And so let me take a look at something real quick. Hold on. Alright, thanks for waiting. Just wanted to see if that guy from the Expos was an outfielder. See if he was somebody Andre Dawson replaced. But he wasn't. He was a shortstop. Alright, so here we go. Now we're going to get into 1981. I cannot remember what set this is from. I know it, but I'm just going to show you the kind of difference. So in 81, still very similar. There's a Dave Parker. So they've changed the way they've, well, it's a different size. So that's blank back, just to show you the difference. So they started going a little smaller, probably make it a little cheaper for these companies to order these cards. And like I said, these are the ones like the Flair did, like a tribute set, I guess would be a way of putting it. But these are even into 81, so you got 76 through 81 at least. I'm fairly certain they go up to about 83. That you can get these in different products like Burger Chef or some, you know, like wiffle ball, stuff like that. So there's a Barrel Madlock mini and a Bill Buckner. So has another Chicago Cub there, and he's actually, if you look at his stats, Bill Buckner really could be make a case for him in the Hall of Fame. You know, I got to look past the error. I mean, Boston's gotten over it now. They've had their numerous World Series since then. He's really a solid player, solid stats, and yeah. That is also a blank back. I do have more. I got some Burger Chef stuff still on the little where you can punch them out of the their little Happy Meal things. and maybe some soda related ones. But there we go, folks. You know, that stuff leads more into these like Craft Home Plate Heroes, MSA, and then regular cards like the M&M's ones here, and then, you know, Panini doing their, okay, so the Panini one is the size of a King B, so this is even bigger than that, so it's somewhere between the two. So MSA later on did King B discs, which were this size, so obviously those are a little bigger. I'll show you these cards somewhere down the line, folks. Oh yeah, and then they kind of morphed into like these, so these Jiffy Pops, you know, so they kind of stuck with that same size until they got to King B, which was even smaller. But that's, you know, another MSA set that I'll show, but I'm just trying to show those ones because they're very related. But, you know, I got a couple different, couple of the different ones from a couple different years of Jiffy Pop. Then you got like that Fantastic Sam's kind of stop sign shaped card there. So MSA, the masters of oddball cards, and it all starts, you know, Michael Schechter and Associates. Would just be a fascinating thing to learn more about. But hey, there it is, folks. There's my very first baseball card, and from one of the cards companies that I just love, MSA. So hey, thanks for watching Old Style Classics baseball cards, and seeing where it all started. Tell me what you think. I'd love to hear from you people, what you think of these cards. Alright, Rob out.